Last night, your person cried to a friend about your age, and this is what they revealed. Carl Jung. There is something deeply unsettling about the conversations that happen without us. The ones that begin late at night in a dark kitchen on a slow phone call or across a couch where someone finally breaks and says what they could never say out loud in daylight. And last night, your person had one of those conversations. They cried, they opened up. And what came out was not small, it was not casual, it was not just one random thought about age. It was the kind of truth that only comes out when someone is tired of holding too much alone. Listen carefully, because this is important. What they revealed says more about the hidden structure of this relationship than months of ordinary conversation ever could. Not because the words were polished, but because they were raw. And raw truth always tells the real story. This was not about gossip, it was not about drama, it was not even about numbers in the simple way people talk about age. It was about fear, time, pressure, judgment, and the future. It was about what love feels like when it is real enough to matter and complicated enough to shake a person from the inside. Stay with me, because what was said last night was not a sign that the love is weak. It may actually be proof that the love is serious. And once you understand what those tears were really about, you may start seeing the silence, the hesitation, and the strange distance in a completely different way. Because this was never just about age. It was about whether two people can hold a love that does not fit neatly inside the world's easy boxes. Your person loves you. That is not the real question here. The real question is what happens inside a person when love becomes so important that it starts touching every hidden fear they have been trying not to face. Deep love does not erase fear. In many cases, it makes fear louder because the more something matters, the more frightening it becomes to imagine losing it, mishandling it, or not being strong enough to protect it from the pressure around it. Last night, when your person turned to a friend and let those tears come out, they were not betraying you. They were coping emotionally. Human beings are not built to carry heavy feelings forever in total silence. At some point, the pressure has to leave the body. It has to become words. It has to be witnessed by someone. And that is what happened. What came out in that moment was not shallow concern. It was not about wrinkles, birthdays, or the surface-level things people usually attach to this topic. It was something much deeper. It was fear of being in different seasons of life, fear of wanting things at different times, fear that love may be strong, but the world around it may still be difficult, fear that even when something feels right in private, it may feel challenged in public. That is the kind of thing people cry about when they stop pretending they are fine. And if you keep listening, this will make even more sense, because once you see the deeper meaning behind the number, everything changes. We are taught from the beginning to think of age as a number, something simple, something fixed, something that can be measured and judged quickly. But that is not how the heart experiences it. The heart does not cry over arithmetic. The heart cries over meaning, over what age seems to represent, over what people say it means, over the stories attached to it. Your person was not crying because of a calendar. They were crying because age had become linked in their mind to identity, timing, roles, expectations, and the fear of whether this love fits the script they were taught to follow. On one side, there is the deeper self, the part that feels love clearly and knows what it wants. That part chose you. That part sees something real. But on the other side, there is the social self, the version of them that has to walk through the world, answer questions, face opinions, deal with family, deal with friends, deal with comments, deal with raised eyebrows and awkward pauses that are never as innocent as they sound. That part gets tired. That part gets pressured. That part starts carrying a weight that has very little to do with how they feel when they are alone with you, and everything to do with how the outside world keeps pushing itself into the relationship. This is where the tears came from, not from lack of love, but from the tiring distance between what they feel inside and what they think they are expected to feel outside. And that distance, if it is not spoken about honestly, can become very heavy. This matters because the easiest mistake you could make is taking their tears personally in the wrong way. You could hear they cried about my age and assume it means regret, shame, doubt, or withdrawal. But that is not always what tears mean. In fact, tears often show where the deepest attachment lives. People do not break down over what they are ready to lose. They break down over what matters so much that carrying it becomes painful. That is the part many people miss. Grief and love are not enemies. Fear and love are not opposites. A person can love deeply and still feel overwhelmed by what that love asks them to face inside themselves. Your person may be grieving the fact that love did not arrive in a simple package. They may be grieving how much courage this relationship requires. They may be grieving the fantasy of an easier version of love that would not need so much defending, so much explaining, so much inner strength. But grief does not mean they do not want you. It may mean they want this badly enough to feel the cost of it. And that is why this moment is so important, because now the real issue is visible. Not perfectly, not fully, but enough. Enough to know that if this relationship is going to grow, it cannot grow only on reassurances like "it's fine" or "don't worry about it." It has to grow through truth, through deeper conversation, through real emotional safety. Because when the real wound stays hidden, the relationship starts reacting to symptoms instead of healing the cause. There is another layer here that you need to understand, and it may be one of the most important parts of all this. When your person spoke to that friend, they were not only releasing emotion, they were also letting another voice shape the fear. This is what happens in private, late-night conversations. A person comes in with a heavy feeling that still has no clear form, and the friend, often with good intentions, gives it language, direction, and meaning. The friend reflects it back, names it, responds to it. And the moment that happens, the fear becomes more solid. It becomes less like a cloud and more like a structure. And here is the hard truth. That friend already had an opinion. People always do. Friends notice dynamics. Families notice differences. People form conclusions long before they ever say them. So when your person showed up crying and vulnerable, the friend likely responded from instinct, from loyalty, from protection. That means they probably validated the fear first, not because they are wrong to, not because they want to hurt the relationship, but because most people, when someone they love is in pain, focus more on comfort than clarity. They confirm the feeling before they question it, and in that moment, your person may have walked away carrying not only their own worry, but someone else's confidence about that worry. That changes things. It means the fear now has an echo, it has reinforcement, it has social weight. And if you have felt a subtle shift in your person since then, this may be part of the reason. So stay with this, because understanding that third voice may help you respond with wisdom instead of panic. The wrong response now would be to get angry at the friend or try to compete with their influence. That will only make the situation smaller, more defensive, more immature. The better response is deeper than that. The real task is to become the safer voice, the steadier place, the more honest reality, because the friend can offer comfort, but only you can offer lived truth inside the relationship itself. The friend may have reflected the fear, but you can reflect something else over time: stability, patience, presence. You can show your person what it feels like when they bring a hard truth into the relationship and the relationship does not collapse. This matters more than almost anything you could say in one emotional conversation, because reassurance is temporary if the nervous system does not trust it. Real safety is not built in one dramatic moment. It is built slowly through repeated experiences where honesty does not lead to punishment, shame, pressure, or withdrawal. That is how trust is formed, brick by brick, day by day. Your job is not to win an argument against fear. Your job is to become a relationship where fear does not have to hide. And yes, that is harder, much harder. It means you may need to hear things that make you uncomfortable without rushing to defend yourself. It means you may need to hold space for confusion without demanding fast clarity. It means you may have to be calm when you would rather be reassured too. But this is the deeper work. And the relationships that survive hidden pressure are usually the ones where at least one person is strong enough to stop reacting and start understanding. Think back to the quiet moments you may have already noticed. The moments where your person seemed present, but not fully. The moments when their face changed for 1 second and then smoothed over again. The times they went silent, changed the subject, pulled back a little, or felt emotionally farther away without any clear reason. Maybe you told yourself it was stress. Maybe you thought they were just tired. Maybe you felt hurt and wondered if you did something wrong. But silence in close relationships is rarely empty. Very often it is crowded with unspoken fear. There are inner emotional patterns that get activated below the surface. And once they are activated, a person can behave differently without fully understanding why. A single comment from someone else, a scene in a movie, a question about the future, a passing thought about time, family, or life stages can light up a hidden fear and change the emotional tone in seconds. Then you see the behavior, but not the true source. You see the withdrawal, but not the trigger. You feel the distance, but not the struggle happening inside them. This is why so many loving people misunderstand each other. One person is quietly fighting an invisible fear, while the other person only sees the silence and assumes rejection. That gap creates pain on both sides. But if you can recognize that their quietness may not be a move away from you, but a move inward towards something they do not yet know how to explain, then you can stop reading every pause as a threat. And that changes the entire emotional climate between you. This does not mean you ignore the silence. It means you meet it differently. Instead of chasing it with panic or punishing it with wounded distance, you make room for it without losing your own footing. That is not weakness. That is maturity. It means you do not force everything to be spoken on your timeline just because discomfort makes you restless. You communicate through steadiness, through the message that says, when you are ready to be honest, I can stay here without falling apart. That kind of emotional room is rare. Most people claim they want honesty, but what they really want is comfort. They want the quick version, the neat version, the version that does not challenge their own fear. But true honesty is messy at first. It comes with stumbles, contradictions, half-formed feelings, and things that may sound harsher than they truly are because they have been held in too long. If your person ever brings this to you directly, what they will need most is not a polished speech from you. They will need evidence that you can hear it without making them regret speaking. That is what creates safety, not perfection, not having the perfect answer, just being a person whose presence does not become dangerous when the truth gets uncomfortable. This is why the silence matters so much. It was never empty space between you. It was pressure building. It was fear waiting for a place to land. And if you learn how to respond well to that quiet instead of reacting against it, you may become the very place their truth has been trying to reach all along. We have also been sold a very flawed idea about love. The idea that if love is real enough, fear should disappear. That if two people truly care for each other, the problems should somehow become smaller. The path should become easier, and the future should begin to feel obvious. But real love does not work that way. Real love often does the opposite. It brings hidden fears closer to the surface because now there is finally something meaningful enough to lose. The deeper the feeling, the more exposed the heart becomes. That does not mean the love is wrong. It means the love is real enough to matter. Your person did not cry because they feel nothing. They cried because they feel too much, because what exists between you is not casual anymore. Casual connections do not keep people awake at night. Casual feelings do not crack open in front of a trusted friend. Casual love does not create that level of emotional pressure. The size of the fear is often the size of the attachment. That is the paradox so many people miss. The stronger the bond, the more frightening the uncertainty can feel. And if your person is carrying worry about age, future timing, public judgment, long-term alignment, or the cost of loving outside easy expectations, then what you are witnessing may not be the beginning of the end. It may be the emotional weight of something they are actually trying very hard not to lose. That is why you must be careful not to confuse fear with a lack of love. Sometimes fear is love under pressure. Sometimes tears are attachment with nowhere else to go, and sometimes the most important thing you can do is not rush to make the fear disappear, but prove that the relationship can survive its presence. No one becomes less afraid just because they are told not to be afraid. That is not how emotional safety works. People become less afraid when they repeatedly experience someone who stays steady in the presence of their fear, someone who does not mock it, dismiss it, rush it, or turn it into a personal attack. Someone who can show through action, not just words. You do not need to solve all of this before being loved here. That is the kind of space your person may need from you now. Not a promise that everything will be easy, not a speech about how age does not matter, not a quick fix. They may need something more real than that. They may need your consistency, your groundedness, your willingness to stay emotionally available while things are still unresolved. This is the long work of real connection. It is not glamorous. It does not look like a perfect movie scene. It looks like ordinary moments handled with unusual care. It looks like hard conversations not being avoided forever. It looks like your person testing honesty in small ways and discovering, maybe for the first time, that truth does not always lead to disaster. That is how the fear begins to lose power, slowly, through repetition, through evidence, through a different emotional experience than the one they may have expected. And if you can become that steady experience, then what happened last night may not damage the relationship at all. It may become the turning point that shows both of you what still needs to be built more honestly between you. There is also a deeper grief hiding in all of this, and it deserves respect. Your person may be grieving the loss of a simpler love story, the version that would have brought less commentary, less explaining, less internal conflict, less outside pressure. That grief does not mean they want someone else. It does not mean they want a different heart. It may simply mean they are tired. Tired of carrying other people's opinions, tired of measuring what they feel against what they think they are supposed to want, tired of trying to hold a private truth inside a public world that always seems ready with a reaction. That exhaustion is real, and if you do not understand it, you may accidentally respond to their pain like it is an accusation against you, when it may actually be pain about everything around you. There is a big difference. So if this ever comes to the surface between you, try not to hear only the words. Hear the weight beneath them. Hear the years of messages, assumptions, rules, and social pressure that may be wrapped around a single sentence. Hear the fatigue of someone who has been trying to be brave quietly. Hear the fear of someone who wants love to feel like peace, but keeps having to wrestle with all the noise around it. When you hear it that way, compassion becomes easier. And compassion is what opens the next door, not defensiveness, not urgency, not the need to prove something fast. Real understanding has patience in it. It lets the deeper feeling finish speaking. And that may be exactly what your person has needed for longer than you realized. What they are silently asking for may not be reassurance in the usual sense. They may not need to hear, "Don't worry, everything is fine," because part of them already knows that line is too small for what they feel. What they may need instead is honest attention. They may need to feel that you truly understand what it costs them to love you under these exact conditions, that you see not just the relationship, but the pressure around the relationship, that you understand they are not weak for feeling overwhelmed, that you can handle the full truth without needing to shrink it down into something easy. This kind of presence is rare. It means allowing their reality to land in you without rushing to defend yourself. It means being willing to be changed by what you hear. It means asking real questions. Questions like, what exactly scares you about this? What future feels hard to imagine? When did this fear first start growing in you? Whose voice do you hear when you worry about us? Those questions open doors. They say, I want to know the truth, not just the version that keeps us both comfortable. And when someone feels that kind of curiosity without judgment, they often begin to open in ways they never could under pressure. That is when the relationship becomes a safer place than the friend at midnight. That is when truth starts coming home. And if you want to know whether this bond can deepen, look there, not at whether fear exists, but at whether truth can survive inside the relationship without being punished.